Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hot Take. Apologies, I imagine for many of you it's been hard getting around town. It was tough for us as well, but I'm glad we're all here. And we're here to talk about aggregation. So we have three of the most important folks in this space who are going to be talking to you today about what's happening in there. So I want to very quickly go around with an intro. So first tell me who you are, what is the project you're representing, and then tell me what is your description of what the problem is today in the fragmentation in blockchains. Let's start left to right. Okay, I guess we're going right to left.
Okay. Hi, my name is Anurag, co-founder of Avail, previously founded Polygon. Avail is data availability focused new blockchain. We enable a lot of rollups on Avail, but also build solutions to connect these rollups together. This is in line with the understanding that a lot of rollups are going to be up there. There are already probably hundreds of them on production right now. And that problem is going to only increase more and more. And this leads to a very fragmented user experience. And so you have to think about infrastructure that can kind of solve for this fragmentation. And that's what we do. We build infra on top of Avail DA, which is called Avail Nexus, which kind of tackles this problem of fragmentation. I will get to the details later.
Yeah, I am Sandeep from Polygon, and at Polygon, as you guys know, we have been talking about the aggregation and ag layer for quite some time now, and we have a very early version of aggregation which is built on top of Ethereum only. So essentially, in a very simple way, that if we want this Web3, which I call it trustless internet, and Web2 I call it a trustful internet. If we want this trustless internet to scale to the level of internet, we would need not 50,000 TPS, 100,000 TPS. We need million, 10 million, 1 billion TPS as an aggregate in the network. So that's only possible if you have multiple thousands and thousands of these, maybe who knows, millions of these chains who are working sovereign in a sovereign way on their own and serving their users. But the problem is then when you have so many of these chains, the user experience gets very, very problematic. The liquidity gets fragmented. And that's why you need some sort of solution which kind of for the end users takes us to a state where for the end user, it feels like one single chain. Like the way when you connect to the internet today, you feel like this is one single internet. You don't think okay, I am using Vodafone card or a broadband, so you are on a different network. You're all on a same network. That's the whole goal of aggregation. The modularity provides you this infinite scale. Aggregation brings it back and makes it feel like one single system. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm Altan. I'm from the Near Foundation. We're near ZNL1 shard of blockchain.
Is your mic on?
Do you guys hear me now? Perfect. Yeah, so Near is a sharded blockchain. We currently have 6 different shards, actually. We just added 2 different shards over the last 2 weeks. And we're going to add more, right? So we're increasing the shards. We've actually solved the problem of how do you abstract different chains and how do you split chains into different blockchains, right? Now we're thinking about how do we do chain abstraction? And that starts with the way is a bit different, right? We start from the account side. How do we aggregate it such that if you have a Near account, you can sign basically a transaction on Polygon, sign a transaction on Solana, and even sign a transaction on Bitcoin. So we're thinking about from an account perspective, and we have different stacks. Obviously, Near account being the first one. We're building something with Eigenlayer, which is a fast finality layer that you can aggregate state, which we can talk later. And we also have pretty much Near DA that can scale other blockchains as well. So a bunch of pretty modular tools, but going towards this chain abstracted future.
So there's this old joke in venture that every business is either bundling something or unbundling something. Right, and so you can think of in a way YouTube kind of unbundled TV, and then Netflix rebundled TV, and usually if you bundle and unbundle, you end up making something positive. But in some sense, it's kind of full circle, right? So the whole idea of rollups was that we just had one chain, mainly Ethereum, and Ethereum wasn't scaling, and so we wanted to create a bunch of chains. And now you guys are all telling me this is terrible. We have too many chains. We got to go back to one meta chain. Is that not? Explain to me why that's better. If I don't know anymore, if I'm just a casual user and I'm well, I thought rollups was the point, and now you're telling me, oh, rollups are terrible, we have too many of them. Motivate this problem for me. What exactly are you going to be improving through aggregation, what's your vision of how the UX will actually get better and we'll not just go back to, okay, one bottleneck again?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at apps on the internet, like, I mean, in general, like what we term as Web 2, but which is really a majority of the apps that we use, right? Like, I mean, these are all deployed on different servers, scaled independently when demand comes, for example, and that's the way how that architecture has evolved. You don't see apps on one single big supercomputer, right? Like it's all these different pieces of compute that are running on different servers, and so in Web 2, maybe like so the notion of like trust has a different definition, and that's why we are all in this industry building all of this infra for, and so it's a slightly different problem here. Now, if you kind of think that all the apps on the on blockchain can live on one chain, then we'll just be done with Solana, like, and that's it, right? Like, I mean, and that
Apparently not. Solana is having trouble being that.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, right? Like, I mean, so I think this is what I spoke on a panel before I came here as well. Is that where the industry evolved from is from a very single chain perspective. Like the first chain was Bitcoin, then the Ethereum, and then like builders of future blockchains focused on, can I do a better Ethereum? Can I do a faster Ethereum? Can I do a small block Ethereum? Fast block Ethereum, for example, and so on. And so I think that whole trend has continued until the advent of like when we started Polygon, we started building this plasma solution. Then rollups came over, and then I think over the last few years, we are seeing this is increase in the architecture where it's not only a faster L1 or a parallelized L1, for example, and so on, right? Like it's about breaking this into maybe a million different parts, right? Like, I mean, and so that's the architecture we have come to now, but it also leads to a lot of problems because now users suddenly have to have tremendous mental overload in terms of thinking about chains, switching RPCs, bridging from one chain to the other, and so on, right? Like, and so I think the first shift is necessary because we have to scale beyond where we are. But of course, it introduces these new problems, and so I think we are just in the middle of this transition. I think like the infra, hopefully like we say this every couple of years, but yeah, hopefully this time like we'll build out all the infra that is required.
Yeah, I would answer as that, like you said that, now we are saying that rollups are terrible. Like nobody's saying that rollups are terrible. Rollups are like these individual, like you can think of it as servers. And you can think like, Ethereum or like, when we talk in the context of Polygon Ag layer, like I was giving an example to somebody, like today when you see Solana, like for example, Solana has like 5 core. Solana is kind of a 5 core machine. You can have like up to 5 hotspots, fee hotspots. And then, beyond that, the fees, like the network quality starts degrading if you have even more congestion on that. You can think of Polygon Ag layer as a parallel computer with infinite cores. Solana is like 5 cores, but this Polygon Ag layer will look like infinite cores. As many cores can be added, as many chains get added. They are like individually scalable. Plus, with the rollup, what rollup provide is also the sovereignty to the application. Like if you are an application, you want to have privacy, you want to have decentralization, you want to have like any different kind of functionality you need for your users, which is suited to your business. You can have it locally on your own rollup or the chain. You don't have to have that system on the entire ecosystem. And that's what, like, I also say that when you think about these monolithic chains, what they are saying is kind of like a form of communism. That, okay, this is the system that we have, everybody needs to use this system. This will never like scale. This, the world has never scaled in that form. Capitalism is, like we all know, is very proven that that's where the things scale. And capitalism needs each business have their own kind of freedom and all that. So that's also, but from a user perspective, I want to say how this aggregated ecosystem will feel like, when you are interacting on a chain which is aggregated, across the ecosystem. As a user, you don't care which rollup or which chain your funds are. Let's say you have funds on Polygon, ZK EVM, or even Solana. I'm saying in the like 6 to 12 months, you will see you have fund on Solana and you want to buy a meme coin on OKX chain. So as a user, you should not be thinking about, okay, let me bridge it to from this chain to this chain, and then click this button and then I buy this and all that. The app developer will be able to codify all of this in one single button. You just give one approval, click yes. You don't even know you have money in your wallet. You don't care whether it's Solana, Polygon POS, Avail, wherever it is. And then the user just does a transaction. It happens. You don't know where it's happening. And this is the future. Like whether it's 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, I can't tell you. But for the end user, this is how it will look like in not very distant future in the blockchain. That's the benefit of aggregation.
So okay, let me take a slightly different angle, because I think for a lot of people in the audience, they might not be clear what. Obviously, the three visions are similar for Near, Polygon, Avail, but they're also slightly different about how that aggregation or how that fragmentation should get solved. So I'd like to hear from you, Altan. Compare chain abstraction to aggregation. What's the difference and what's the similarity?
So basically ag layer, where you do proof aggregation and prove it to Ethereum that you've done that, right? So you have that unified liquidity, which works really well for some of the chains. Ours is more like, let's just, not Ethereum, but everything else, right? So, and don't care about bridges. They'll all be handled by these folks, right? We just want to be on top of it, where you just say, hey, I want to sign this transaction on Ethereum, and I want to do this thing, right? So I want to do this swap, which I have these two accounts. Why can I not just do that, right? So from our perspective, it's more of like, hey, these chains will already aggregate it. We believe in that future, but we also want to do more. Like, for example, want to do Bitcoin to ETH or something else. So it's a bit more thinking from the app point of view, how we do that. And there's a good example of DapTap, which is if you daptap.net, which is essentially like how do you sort of aggregate different L2s. And you can do swaps on, like you can go to QuickSwap on Polygon, do something there with a Near account, which is amazing. And you can do all these things, right? So we believe in that future of, hey, security will be solved by other folks that already know what they're doing, and let's just focus on the account level. So that's kind of
So effectively, if I can summarize, your vision is that all of your wallets get unified into a single wallet, regardless of whether they're aggregated.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So now tell us the aggregation vision, how it differs from chain abstraction and what Avail is working on.
So the goal of aggregation is to provide, as Altan also said, is one single security zone. Like, somebody can argue that, okay, you are saying that you can call this smart contract from chain A to chain B via, let's say, some bridging solution also. But what the problem there is that when you are using a chain A and chain B and there is a bridging provider in between, that transaction is going through three security zones: chain A security, bridge security, chain B security. With the aggregation kind of system, all the chains are connected into one single security zone, right? So you don't have to rely on anybody else's security. And at that scale, when we want this to go to internet scale, you want that level of nobody needs to think about it. Once you have solved that, and that's what aggregation is. Once you have solved, then on the UX level, what you guys are doing at chain abstraction is that as a user, I just create one wallet and all my wallets are internally connected with this. And I do my signing from there. They have an MPC kind of system which signs on different kind of networks, which are different, let's say, address schemes, BTC, Solana, whatever. So that's how aggregation is about aggregating those state machines with the ZK, with the power of ZK technology, like in the form of mathematics, using mathematics into one single state, right? Blockchains are essentially state machines. All these rollups are individual rollups or databases, you can think, and trustless databases. And with aggregation, you're combining all that databases and creating a master kind of proof of all the databases. So it makes them makes them feel like one single chain.
Avail. So let us see, Anurag, how your vision differs from these two.
Yeah, so how we kind of arrived at this direction is primarily because we started off building this scalable data availability layer, and from a rollup point of view, any rollups on top of Avail or any sort of DA layer share the DA layer. Right? I mean, the ordering of these rollups is there on the DA layer, and so from a interconnectivity perspective, the proof execution aggregation is important, but the ordering proof aggregation is also very important, right? So that's why we spent a lot of time building out something called data availability sampling. This is basically light lines that sample the data and give you ordering proofs. I'm just glossing over the details, but really the direction is, if you want to really get to a phase where we have one single security zone, what you need to be having is a combination of the ordering guarantee as well as the execution proof guarantee. So that is the core direction which we began. And not only do we do this on rollups on top of Avail, we've spent quite some time building out consensus ZK consensus proofs of, like let's say with our partner teams, of course, for Ethereum, for example, for Tendermint, for Cosmos, for example, for Grandpa, which is our own consensus algorithm, and so on. We are able to kind of do this massive data aggregation, ordering data aggregation play, but also combine it with, like execution proof aggregation plays. And of course, something plug into something like an ag layer, but also other ecosystems as well.
These are basically different parts of the stack. Like for example, for us, we are only focused on the aggregation layer. We are pretty agnostic, in fact, very complementary, and we work with Near, for example, on the data availability side, Avail, Eigenlayer, whoever is doing the data availability, and it's up to the rollups to choose. Similarly, on the chain abstraction side, like Near is doing chain abstraction, there are multiple other protocols who are trying to do chain abstraction. We are working with them also on those kind of fronts.
So the three of you kind of work in parallel at different parts of the stack, and you all sort of work together ideally.
Exactly.
The interesting thing that's different about each of you is that chain abstraction is not opt-in. You don't need to go talk to Bitcoin and have Bitcoin integrate you. You can just be like, oh, magically now you can pay on Bitcoin using a Near account. For you guys, it's an opt-in system, right? Like the chains you're working with have to decide to be using you in order to aggregate them.
Yeah, our design is predicated not chains opting in, because essentially like from an ordering proof guarantee, right? Like whether rollups post data to Ethereum or to Avail, we are able to kind of sync the data or relay the data to Avail.
Okay, I see.
And even from an execution proof point of view, these proofs are public, right? Like any ZK rollup posts their proof publicly. So theoretically, we are able to take these proofs and permissionlessly, aggregate them. So that's the.
You could suck them up from Ethereum and be like, yo, we've also proven you over here, just in case you're curious.
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
Same. I think yesterday, I can give you an example. Yesterday, Union Protocol announced the integration of all Cosmos chains into the Ag layer, right? So they are proving the Cosmos chains, I think they're consensus proofs, and they are plugging into the Ag layer already. So all the chains can connect with the Cosmos chains also. So similarly, you are going to see a lot of these protocols, especially bridging protocols, taking this initiative and proving these chains into the Ag layer and connecting them across the Ag layer.
Okay, so far the conversation has been very technical, very theoretical, talking about these fairly deep in the stack things. Let's talk a little bit about UX. Okay, let's say that it's 2-3 years from now, all of your systems are very robust. There are 1,000 rollups. Okay, what is going to be the experience of a user when they have their assets on these, spread across, a couple hundred rollups, different apps living on different chains? What is it going to feel like then versus how it feels now?
I think I already previously said some of this, that for an end user it will just like they will connect to a wallet and they see I have $1,000 and they don't even see where that $1,000 exists. They just see some apps coming up. One app is on Solana, one app is on Polygon, one app is on some Near blockchain, and they just click and do their stuff the way you.
What consequence do you think that has for blockchains versus applications when it comes to value capture? If that's true, if the user no longer cares what chain, what application lives on, is that actually in some way bearish for blockchains themselves capturing value?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, if somebody else was there, but yeah, I definitely feel so. That if you see on the internet, the companies, today you don't, you interact with Facebook and, Instagram and all these apps, you don't see which ISP you are interacting with. And those ISPs, and that should be the reasonable model also, those ISPs and those internet business models, they are valued on their actual revenue that they are generating. And this should be true for the crypto, this thing also. That's why right now all these valuations on blockchains, these are all very memetic. 95% is memetic if you are a good project. Otherwise, it could be 99% memetic also. Yeah, and then, why crypto should be treated any differently. Like in 5 years or 10 years, when this system really, you have 100 million plus users, every protocol should be valued on how much revenue they are generating. And then only time can tell you that, which chains will have what kind of revenue being generated over there.
Do you guys agree with that? Are we going to invert the fat protocol thesis?
Yeah, I have a slightly different thesis, is that blockchains are fundamentally different infrastructure in this compared to, let's say, app infra in general. Because there is a crypto economic element to it. There's a cryptographic element to it. The cryptographic elements can be very commoditized at some point in time. If you get, but there is a strong crypto economic element to this as well. And so there is this decentralized collective of people who will still need to be running this, for example. And of course, we can get into the fees generated by the system, whether it's sustainable and so on. But I really like to think of this is there needs to be value flown to the infrastructure layer. Otherwise, it's difficult to sustain. It's not going to be shut it and forget it sort of infrastructure. It has to be keep evolving, for example. And so I definitely think there are a lot of changes that are going to come to this architecture which we haven't foreseen yet. And so I think that's why, I am pretty sure because of the nature of basically blockchains are economic coordination layers. Now, you can look at a Visa or a MasterCard, or you can look at, let's say, the economy of a country. I'm just, kind of giving little outlandish arguments. But, how do you value the economic coordination layer of a country, for example? In general, do you look at a Visa as a reference? Do you look as the national payment layer as a reference, or do you consider that the government running a treasury, for example? So there's a lot of elements to it, I think, which we are yet to uncover because fundamentally what blockchains bring to the picture is this evolution of trust infra. I like to say that initially, maybe hundreds of years ago, people used to coordinate in very small communities, and with the advent of time and technology, the scope of economic coordination, the kind of the number of people who can coordinate with has increased substantially with the help of technology. But there are still intermediaries, and I think the final end state of blockchains is: can we do more P2P economic coordination? Can 50 people come together and, let's say, create a cooperative financial bank, for example? So it's a lot of new institutions that are actually going to be enabled by this P2P metric. It's not only about financial rails, it's also about connecting data to those rails. There's a lot of bunch of things that I have, maybe not the right place, but essentially what I'm trying to say is that if done correctly, if we reach the right outcome, this has the potential to change how society works, how trust has worked in society. And I think if that is the case, then this infra will be much more valuable than we can think of.
You're still long Ethereum if all this happens.
Of course.
Okay.
No, I am also, by the way, long Ethereum, long many of the protocols.
If you're right, if you're right, the trade is long Uniswap, short Ethereum.
Let me finish. The finished part is I am not long on these protocols being $1 trillion protocol. I am not long on protocols which are 20 BFDV and they have a revenue of $50, right, per day.
Sure.
Right. And you can see it in Web 2 also, Facebook, Instagram and these companies valued at $1.7 trillion versus a internet service provider valued at, let's say, Visa itself, you can see Visa is valued at $50 billion or something, whereas the companies that are built and using Visa are 5x, 10x higher value. That's my proposition. I'm not saying it will be zero, but it will not be as crazy as it's.
Sure. Okay. Altan, what's your take?
I think it's both, right? So if Visa 50 billion is still, I think, low.
Yeah, it's not
right?
small.
It's
It's not
undervalued,
small.
so
It's a pretty good outcome.
Yeah. You use it, but basically these assets will live in these blockchains, right? So there's some accrual there, but also new applications, maybe not Uniswap, but new Uniswap that will have tons of users that comes from, I don't know, somewhere else. I'm Turkish, so it comes from Turkey, let's say, because there's a lot of activity. And then that would be value accrual there. So that's the thesis, and that's why we have kind of go through the wallet route where the applications live and we kind of feed them and get some value out of it as well. So that I see both ends.
I think this is also currently, if you see in a way, it might be true. The combined value of all the exchanges, if let's say Binance with the kind of revenue they have or the profits that they have, and then all these meme coins, DeFi apps, everything built together, except Bitcoin, if you remove Bitcoin from the situation, I think they are already a pretty sizable amount of that, and they'll keep increasing. All I'm saying is percentage or amount of valuation of the total platform, of the total ecosystem, the percentage of that of these infra players will keep going small, but it might still be pretty big.
Okay, fair enough. Interesting. So we're coming up on time. So I want to do one last question, which is, if your project succeeds at what you want to do, what is the one thing that you expect to be different in the blockchain universe?
I'll start. So you go to an app, right? You basically want to buy ETH. You don't have to think about anywhere, right? It just basically does buy the best ETH that you can do, right? Or basically one just single application that you can go and collect all these things, depending on if you go to Uniswap or something. You don't have to care about where these assets live, but you can just like buy that asset. So that's kind of the vision of chain abstraction.
Beautiful.
I think for the user point of view, Altan already said this. I'm saying on the technical point of view, like that's our motto, that infinite scalability for blockchain trustless applications and then unified liquidity. That's what we want to chain as many chains, and all the liquidity feels like the same.
Anurag?
Yeah, of course. We are also on the same path of building trustless infra at scale. But eventually, of course, the end state of all this is we want this blockchain technology to play a very fundamental role in how trust plays a role in society. And I think if we can make that impact, I think that is the best impact that we as an industry can make. And we will not be, I'll not say Avail will alone do it. We will do it with, all players in the space.
It's a great note to end on. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.